What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video with yours truly, Marcus Soul. Today we are talking about three things that I believe every instructor needs. Now, what we are going to talk about today is with these three pillars. This is something that I have titled or coined the M3 framework. I won't say the M3 method just yet. That is coming soon, but M3 framework overall. Now, this is something that I started working on years ago. I would say about 7 or 8 years ago. I didn't know that I was crafting this sort of framework. To me, I was just working on documenting my process with teaching. Now, if you know me, you know that I started teaching around the age of about 17, 18 years old. It was after my crew and I had just won America's Best Dance Crew, and that kind of catapulted me right into a life of teaching. And I was teaching breaking at first. I went on to learn more hip hop choreography and start incorporating that into my teaching until I was just fully teaching hip hop choreography classes. I was choreographing, and that became my full-time job. Now, throughout this whole entire journey of dance, like I said, or I would say around maybe 20 or 21 years old. So your boy's 30 now. So about a decade ago, right? At least to my recollection, to my knowledge, is when I really started looking at what are the things that I constantly use in my own teaching practice. What are the things that I believe have been most impactful, most transformational for my students? Now, if you've taken my class before, then you know that I'm a person that I really, really enjoy, value, and appreciate the opportunity to use my words and actions, of course, but use my words in my classes to impact the next generation of movers, right? I believe if I have 1 hour with you, every week, minimum, right? I want to use that hour to be as impactful and as transformational. You're going to hear me use those words a lot, as possible, because I don't know what's going to happen throughout your week for the rest of however many hours, right? If you want to calculate the 24 hours a day times, or actually we'll say, 24 hours a day times 7 and just subtract 1 hour. That is all I have with you, right? And you have all the other hours out in the world doing whatever, going wherever, and hearing from whoever. Now, for me, I think it's very important that we as instructors use the opportunities that we've been given to really get into the hearts, minds, and souls of our dancers and not just assisting them with what they do with their body, right? Dance can easily be seen as something that is solely just physical. I don't believe that. I believe dance is mental, emotional, spiritual, social, cultural, and so many more things, but I'll leave it there for the sake of time. Now, as I continue to get into this M3 framework, I think that is just a really important preface to everything that I'm going to say next, right? This is something that started a long time ago, and it is built on, again, this is not just a theory that I thought would sound cool. This is built on what I have seen in my decade plus of teaching as impactful and transformational for the dancers. Now, M3, the 3 M's stand for movement, mindset, and mentorship. I've toyed with these 3 M's and what they mean a few different times. Previously, it was movement, mindfulness, and motivation. As I've gone through just rigorous reviewing of the M3 framework, I've landed on movement, mindset, and mentorship. Why is it these 3 things? Because I believe these 3 things are going to be the most important and crucial components to your entire teaching life, teaching practice, whatever you would like to title it. So for me, starting with the first M, movement. We may think that movement is something that is solely based on dance. It is solely based on choreography, right? it goes far beyond that. Movement goes into the way that we speak and the way that we engage, right? And that'll be more in detail later, but the way that we move, right? The way that I engage with those around me, specifically my students, right? Movement goes far beyond just the dance part. It goes into how we communicate, what we communicate to our dancers, and how we help them feel confident, courageous, and connected with and in their own bodies. So movement to me is about the actions that we have. It's about empowering our dancers to be great on the floor and beyond it, because moving is something that is not just within choreography. It is not just within dance steps, moves, techniques, whatever, because you can have the greatest technique in the world. You can have the absolute best choreography. You can be extremely creative with your movement. You can be clean with your movement. You can be highly athletic with your movement. None of that matters if it's not translating off the floor. None of that matters if you give a dancer the greatest choreography they've ever learned. They go and compete that, or they go and perform that somewhere. And after the movement is over, after the piece is over, they walk off the floor into the world and treat everyone around them with disrespect and disdain. Everything that, all the time that you spent with them, every move that you taught them is completely irrelevant, because nobody cares about somebody that has a high skill set if they also don't have a high character set. One of my good friends from a long time ago would say that your skill set will take you somewhere that only your character can keep you. I believe better said, it's your skill set won't take you somewhere that your character can't keep you. I think there's some tweaking to do with that, just because we've seen that many times. We've seen people that have a really high skill set, they don't have a high character set, and that is the demise of everything that they've built for themselves. So movement goes into that. Movement is something that we take all the steps and see what impact we can have on our dancers beyond those, so that when they get into the real world, the way that they move, the way that they treat others, the way that they treat themselves, the way that they make decisions, all comes from and is spawned from simply the initiating factor, which is when I dance, I'm seeing myself this way. I'm beginning to understand my body this way. I'm beginning to understand the impact that my actions have on the things around me. Maybe that just starts with something as simple as music, but it goes far beyond that when we get into the real world, right? So from there, the reason that is a crucial point is because that's where we start shifting over into mindset, which is our pillar number 2. So mindset. When we get into mindset, this is where we really transition from the physical into the mental. Again, for me, in the years of training that I've done with dancers, years of choreographing, years of coaching, which to me is the most important role that I've taken on. I think it takes one person to dance, another person to instruct, and an entirely different person to coach, right? So you can even throw choreography in there. It takes another type of dancer or professional to choreograph, and a completely different one to actually coach. So for me, when I get into the mindset part, I think this right here is the most of the 3. I'd say it's the most crucial. Is, again, if we're going off of that hour a week that I spoke about, if we have 1 hour a week with our dancers, in that 1 hour a week, how are we altering their mindset? How are we helping them see the decisions that they make? How are we helping them change their relationship to their own greatness? How are we helping them change the way that they see what they are capable of? If first we use the movement, right? So you come to a Marcus Soul class, you're going to get trained in movement. And of course, that's going to go beyond. When it really starts to go beyond is when we get into mindset, right? You learn the steps, you learn the moves, you learn how your physical interaction with the things around you start to transform the things around you. Now we get into mindset. I've said many times, if you've taken my class, then you've heard me say, if by the end of my class, all you've learned from me is choreography, is steps, is physical or artistic technique, I believe I've failed. And I believe that to be true for almost any other instructor, right? I think if all your dancers, if they've spent 1 hour a week with you for, say, a normal studio season is from, or I would say just overall is about 9 months, right? 1 hour a week for 9 months. There's breaks in there, sure. That adds up to be a lot of time. And I think if all they've learned from you in that time is just how to execute choreography better, you have wasted your time. You have wasted their time, and you have wasted the time of the people that have entrusted them to you. Parent, guardian, loved one, caretaker, whoever that may be. You have wasted their resources, their money, their time, their gas, all of it. So when we get into the mindset part, I believe this is where I don't want to say real transformation begins, because movement does invoke transformation. But this is where the next level of transformation begins, is that now these dancers are starting to understand what they are capable of. And you are the introduction to that. You have the power to completely introduce a dancer to their own greatness. Maybe, I won't even say maybe, most of the time, you're going to get dancers that walk in the room and they see themselves as somebody that might not be capable of any greatness whatsoever. They're walking in that room. Sometimes it's because it's just luxurious babysitting, right? Where I got dropped off here and I got no choice. So I'm stuck with you for an hour every single week. Some of them want to be there. They want to be great. Some dancers want to go on and be professionals. Those are generally the three different types of dancers that are going to walk into your room. And many times the first two are going to walk in that room, and many times all three, but mainly the first two, are going to walk into that room seeing themselves a certain way, and their relationship to greatness, their relationship to what they're capable of is so shattered, is so cut off, that they don't understand or haven't had contact with that side of themselves. And it's something as simple as steps, something as simple as the way you speak to them, something as simple as the connection between those two things, how you teach them, what you teach them, that they start to understand. If I can get, and I know this sounds really simple, but I promise you I'm not oversimplifying it. If I can get a single step, if I can learn musicality, if I can learn rhythm, if I can learn coordination, if I can learn performance, these very simple concepts that apply to dance at first, if I can get that, what else can I get? And it's that question right there that we have power over, that is the initiation to elevating their mindset. So it's the movement part that then transitions over into the mindset part. And that's where the next layer of transformation begins. And that takes us into our third, which is mentorship. Now, the third pillar, that is mentorship. We've got them to move. We've got them to think differently now. If they've moved differently, they've thought differently. This third one is for the journey ahead. So if movement is current, right, and it could even be previous. They walked into that room because there's something that happened before that brought them into that room. Mindset starts to shift for them in the way they see themselves currently right now, and then it starts to transition into how they see themselves moving forward. Mentorship is how you are able to guide them throughout that entire thing. If that's our third layer, right? If mindset was our next layer, mentorship is going to be that third layer that I think takes this whole thing over the top. Here's the reason. In my entire experience in teaching, I have seen countless, and I'm not exaggerating, I have seen countless instructors, heard countless horror stories of instructors that were once great dancers, were not highly skilled or highly effective instructors, and therefore never mentored the people that they trained. And those three, right, again, M3, the three pillars, right? If you're able to stick the landing on all three of these, it's something we're going to talk about in a little bit, but if you're able to stick the landing on all three of these pillars, I think that you are in the top 1% of instructors. You may not be known. Again, I'm not super known. I'm barely known at all. I'm not famous. I'm not any of those things, but I do believe in my ability to instruct. I believe in my ability to move, to engage and transform mindset, and to mentor the dancers that I teach, right? As we transition into that layer of whatever's coming next, how many dancers do we all know that learned from somebody great. Maybe they taught really dope choreography, and maybe there's very few, but maybe they got into, man, they even helped me with my mindset in a healthy way, not an unhealthy way. There's countless examples of unhealthy. I'm looking for the healthy way. But now, how many times do we hear about somebody that instructor mentors me to this day, or led me to a mentor, or told me things that still mentor me and I still find the meaning of as I continue on in my journey? That is the meaning, that's the definition, that's the power of mentorship. Can you take these dancers from point A to point Z, right? And in that process, once they're done learning the vocabulary, the technique, the skill set, can you now help them in the next step, whether that be a career? And you don't have to be a professional. That's somebody that has booked all of the jobs, but just mentorship on, man, I'm now stepping into being a professional. I'm dealing with heartbreak. I'm dealing with life. I'm dealing with friendships that are beginning and ending. I'm dealing with losing family. I'm dealing with getting a job, not having a job, finances, bills, all these things. Can you be that person? And again, you don't need to mentor them on every aspect of their life. But can you be that person in the dance space that, again, tying this back full circle, as I said, can help them on the floor, because that's the initiation of what gets us to walk out into the world. It's not just being great on the floor, it's being great beyond it, and that relationship between the two. I walked into the room a student that just wanted to learn a few steps. But how did I leave the room? How did I end my experience with that instructor? That's the thing that transforms, highly impacts, highly cultivates greatness within the next generation of dancers. And the reason I think these three pillars are so important is because we have seen far too many examples, as I mentioned previously, of people that did not do all three. In the dance world, we have put such an emphasis on physical greatness, body image. What do you look like? How do you present yourself? Do you think you're better than other people? All these things that have to do solely with judging ourselves based off the physical. But what happens after that? What happens beyond that? Can we take a dancer from moving, right? Changing the way that they move, to changing the way that they think of themselves and the world around them, and then mentoring them for the journey? You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be a guru. You don't have to be the all-knowing, esoteric being, but you do have to be somebody that's willing to be there. Somebody that's willing to try, somebody that's willing to believe in the person that's standing in front of you. Because if you're not willing to do that, you shouldn't be in this position in the first place. If you're not willing to extend yourself, if you're not willing to grow yourself and stretch yourself for the dancer that's in front of you, to be there for them, to guide them, to champion them and cheer them on, you shouldn't be in this position. Because that's what it means to instruct. That's what it means to coach, is to not be a person that's just good at dance. Being good at dance is what the dancers do. If you want to just be good at dance, go be a dancer. This is about, can you be good at leading? Can you develop yourself as a leader? And if you can, great. If you're up for that challenge, phenomenal. If you're not, that's a different story. So this is the M3 framework that I have developed, these three pillars that I have come to see as, again, almost a full, beautiful triangle, where once we are able to take all three of these into consideration, it truly changes the lives for the better. It truly changes the lives for the better of the dancers that are in front of you. And I think it will change your life as well, because it'll cause you to ask, am I just teaching movement? Or am I giving somebody something for mindset when they go home after my class? And am I giving them something for mentorship long after they've finished my class? That's the M3 method, and everything, or M3 framework, everything that we do after this point is all going to be funneled through this. It's not a program. It's not a course. It's just this framework that I am continuing to grow, continuing to put through rigorous review to make sure that I can take this to other instructors and hopefully empower them to be great and create and cultivate greatness as well. Thanks for listening. Like, follow, subscribe, whatever all the things are and all the buttons are. Peace. Be great. And remember that you are meant to move.